Hello Maus Werx fans, and welcome to the Mouse Trap. This is going to be a new series that I'm creating, a news program if you will, about the state of the hobby and different aspects of the hobby. And I basically am creating this to give you folks some insight on different things that are happening around the world of modeling, manufacturing, and distributing shows, things that are just generally going on. Sorry for my rough appearance. Haven't gotten a lot of sleep lately. I've been having spinal injury problems and haven't got a lot of sleep lately, so I apologize for that. Basically, the purpose of this weekly news magazine will be to give you all an insight into what's going on around the world. Basically, I'm going to divide this program into 5 different departments. The first department is going to be the news around the globe of modeling. This will entail different things that are going on in the manufacturing, distribution, shows, basically highlights of things that are going on that will apply to modeling. The second part is going to be a future release segment, which will show basically the weekly new things, scuttlebutt things that are going on with the kits that are coming out or have come out or very soon will come out. We'll talk about different aspects of that and show some things that are coming down the pipeline and show you what all the excitement is. The next segment will be new kit review, and basically I'll review a kit that has been released recently. Little bit in depth, just trying to show what the kit is all about, why I'm featuring it, what type of new features it has, how this kit will impact the hobby, and why you should care. So we'll have one segment of that. The next segment is called Model Rewind, where I will take an older kit, do a quick review of it, kind of to show what it was like 10, 15, 20 years ago for models, show you the differences, and the might be kind of interesting and chuckle at times of how they did things back in the day. So that was kind of an interesting feature. Then the next one is called New Gear, which will feature tools and techniques in the hobby. I'll throw a few of them out there that maybe you haven't heard of or haven't heard of a certain way to do them. So that will be the last feature, and give you some tips and hints on different types of ways that you can use these tools on your models. So I hope you enjoy this news program. If you do, be sure to like this page and subscribe so you get all the news programs. This is hopefully going to be weekly. And comment if you have an idea of what you'd like to see or what you are seeing, what do you think about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you say and getting the show on the road. So thanks for watching, and let's get the first one started. Hello Maus Werx fans, and welcome to the Mouse Trap and the news around the world of modeling. This week there's a few things that came up. One of the more important ones is some of you may have heard that one of the largest American distributors of plastic model kits has gone bankrupt. We were all hoping that they would be saved or bought and keep going in the form they were, but apparently this late last week, I believe, the courts decided to break them up. This of course is the company called Hobbyco, which basically owns the lines of Great Plains and Tower Hobbies. They've been the distributor of model kits for many, many, many years. It's very sad that this had to come to pass, but it has. So basically what most modelers are concerned about is the fact that Hobbyco had the exclusive distribution rights in the US for many manufacturers of plastic model kits. Their radio control line and their website has been sold off to Horizon Hobbies, which is also a very large hobby distributor here in the US. They were that is all at least I have heard about the situation. They did not say anything about what the model kit import rights are going to do. A couple of the model kit companies that they were importing were Hasegawa Kits and Italieri Kits and Revell Germany. The latest we've heard from Revell Germany is that they will be fine. They will be trying to distribute and manufacture from Revell Germany, which was actually almost a completely separate entity from the Revell USA. A few years back they were actually separated and then were reunited under the Hobbyco name in the US. So that doesn't look like too much of a problem. The Italieri we have not heard word from. That might be kind of iffy because their distribution even in Europe is very sketchy. Kind of hard to trace what they're doing, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of their camp. The Hasegawa kits, unfortunately, they probably won't be picked up real soon in the United States. They are globally distributed. You can get them straight from Japan. It's unfortunate that they won't be in the United States for a little while because a little while back they actually decided to cut their prices by about 30% straight from the manufacturing part of Hasegawa. So their prices came way down from what they used to be, and you can still get those cheaper prices overseas, especially through Japan. So you will be able to still get those kits. You do have to kind of chase them down, pre-order them, because they do not do very many kits anymore. Almost everything they do is limited run, so you do have to get your pre-orders in. What this means is a lot of the money for these kits is going to start going out of the States, and which is not good for American companies, but for the modeling community at least there is an option, and hopefully somebody will pick up the banner in the United States and start doing more importing of these foreign companies. For example, there's a new release from Hasegawa that I picked up out of Japan since I couldn't get it anywhere else. This one is actually a rebox of the ICM 48 scale MiG-25 Foxbat RBT. The reason I picked it up from Hasegawa was I figured it was, first of all, cheaper for whatever reason. I figured it would have a good set of decals in there because Hasegawa always does nice work on those. It would have nice box art, nice instructions. It would be packaged nice. So those were some of the reasons I picked it up. There is a lot of companies that are going to start repackaging other brands of models. ICM, Italieri, to name a few, are being reboxed by Hasegawa, Tamiya, which is a good thing because they usually try to clean them up or add extra parts for them. So that's something you'll see in the future. There's a lot of model kits that are going to be the same across different manufacturers. So that's about it from the what is going on in the world. We just had the Germany Nuremberg Toy Fair. There were some interesting things happening there. I do not know what they discussed or if they knew anything about the impending bankruptcy of Hobbyco USA. Be interesting if they actually knew about it and they actually did something about it at that show. If not, the Shizuoka show is coming up pretty soon, so we'll hear some news out of there. Not so much shakeups, just a lot of moving around of manufacturers and what they're going to do. So we'll keep you posted, and that's about it from the world of modeling. Hello and welcome to our feature on new model releases for the week of April, basically April 1st through the 7th. There's a few new things going on, a few new kits coming out. So let's look at the blotter and see what's going on. A lot of you might be familiar with the Ryefield Panther G and the Panther Avalanche that's coming from all kinds of manufacturers. Scales, sizes, versions. If you like Panthers, you're in seventh heaven this next 6 months. Basically, Riffield did release a Panther G with clear parts and a full interior. Long-awaited kit. Does look very, very interesting, seeing some of the builds on the net. And they are going to continue with that and make other versions of that Panther G, probably with interiors, but not sure if they're going to do any more transparent parts, because it's very hard for the manufacturers to do a transparent part. They have to clean the molds immaculately to get those clear beads in there, and then once they run them, it's limited, and then they have to go back to the regular colored beads. So anything that's transparent or clear, visible models and so forth, are generally not going to last very long. So if you like that, you best get on it, because like I said, they're all limited run. The Hobby Boss is coming out with their Panthers. Trumpeter is coming out with a 16th scale Panther. Should be out very, very soon. Taycom's Panthers are really starting to stir things up. They originally came out with a early A, a mid A, and a late A. I have got my hands on one, and they are very nice. They look very easy to build. Taycom has taken their time to really make these kits buildable. Link and length track, things like that are kind of a compromise between your rubber track fans and the link by link track fans. They do plan to come out with a Berg Panther A very soon, and that is causing a lot of buzz because of the way these A's look. It'll have the full interior. Hopefully the front driver's compartment will be in full, and looking real nice. I believe there's a couple other companies on the coattails, and they're going to do Berg Panthers as well, probably different versions as well. Speaking of armor, the Taycom is planning to release a BV206S, which is a very strange subject that you wouldn't think a model company would do. It's a tractored vehicle. It's a tractored APC 2-unit vehicle, and that should be out probably in a few months. Taycom's popping these out pretty quick, so I would give it maybe two to 3 months. We should have that kit in our hands. Very interesting. I went around the world on the internet looking at different pictures of it and different versions of it. There's plenty you can do with this kit, so hopefully that one will be hitting soon. Taycom is also doing a mid-Lee. They did a late and an early Lee. They look very good, very simplified in construction. Lots of detail, but easy to build. So hopefully that one will follow suit. Thunder Model, who has done quite a bit of the different armored vehicles, and they are supposed to come out with a 60 tractor, and this is a World War II tractor that is very interesting because the fuel tank is outside of the vehicle. A lot of the parts are open, so it makes it a weathering dream. You got all kinds of different types of textures and things you can do to this, and they're going to do 2 different versions of that. The other thing that they've announced, but probably is a little ways off, is a BR-80 locomotive, which personally I think I like locomotives and trains. It's going to be very interesting to add to those trumpeter kits. This particular one is a switcher, short haul, and a lot of the works are on the outside again, like the tractor of the train. So you're going to have the flying pumps and all that kind of stuff on the outside, so you can do all kinds of detailing and so forth. So if it is any indication of the other Thunder models quality, it's going to be a very, very nice kit. Hopefully it won't be astronomically expensive. And that is about it for the model releases. I am going to try to get you more on aircraft, not just armor, and even cars and so forth. Unfortunately, this week was very armor heavy. So, but I'm not forgetting all you other guys and spaceships. Oh, there is one spaceship coming, and that is going to be a 350th scale Katinga Klingon vessel in again 1/350th scale. It's the same scale as the large Enterprises from Mobius, and it is going to be really nice if it looks anything like the test 3D printed images that they've had on the net. People have wanted this for a long time, ever since the Enterprises came out. Don't know why it wasn't done earlier, but it's being done now, and I will welcome it, and it's going to be very, very nice. I'd like to see if they come out with lighting kits for it. and like to see what people are going to do with it. So that one's supposed to be out later this year. If you really want one, find your favorite model hobby shop online or in the store and make sure they pre-order it for you, because I can guarantee you the first run is going to disappear, just like the Discovery from 2001. It's supposed to be around $100, might be a little bit more, but it's definitely going to be worth it. So get your pre-orders in for that one. So up next is going to be the rewind, or the kit review, so stay tuned for that. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of new kit releases, and one of the biggest highlights is going to be this kit right here, which is the Tacom Panther in 35th scale. It is a Panther A. This is the late version. They do have a mid and a early version, which have a lot of the different changes in the cupola and so forth there. Not going to go into a lot of the details of differences, but I will show the kit and why it's looking good and what features it has. First of all, you'll notice the box is kind of odd. They actually have just a line drawing instead of an actual painting of the Panther. Kind of a neat approach to it. The sides of the box, just go quickly, looks like, shows all the interior. It has a full interior, every possible detail. I mean, I'm sure the hardcore guys will find a few more details. A couple of the paint jobs, and the other side, which is kind of nice, what Tacom does, they put a whole picture of all the sprue layouts, so you can kind of see what you get in the kit and see how complicated it is. And they've been listening to the modelers' questions and requests, and they have been very good at doing that, things like this. Now this one you can kind of see, I mean, there's just a ton of sprues because of all the interior decals and some photo etched. So let's pop it open, kind of just show you real quickly what's what in here. Okay, individually bagged, maybe 3 or 4 sprues in a bag. One thing I noticed, what they've been doing in all their kits, is they actually, on the gates, they actually cut out the sprue letter, so it's very easy to see when you're swapping through sprues. Some kits like this, which have tons of sprues, that is extremely helpful. If they don't, you can always put a piece of tape around it and take a marker and just mark the letter, so it's easier to see, because sometimes if it's just on the edge, very hard to see, especially us old guys. So what we've got in the first bag is, looks like some of the drive sprockets, some of the drive wheels, and then some of the torsion bars. So it looks like all that detail will be shown. The wheels, I'll leave that to the experts on how many rivets they have. I'm sure they actually did pretty well on this one. So that is that bag there. Next bag has the rear plates and front glacis plate. Looks like they have a lot of detail already put on, so unlike the Dragon kits, Dragon, this would all be separate, which is actually kind of nice. They were very good kits. This is supposed to push it a little bit further. So this one does not come with Zimmerit. They will be coming out with one with Zimmerit later. So if you like the Zimmerit, you might wait. If you know how to do Zimmerit, you might do that on here, especially if there's a particular picture you like of a certain one where the Zimmerit is flaking off and you need to custom do it. I'll try to get a tutorial on how to do Zimmerit. If you go to my website, mauswerx.com, there is a actual tutorial on how to do it and using different materials. Looks like some of the transmission parts, tow cables, they're slide molded, so they're hollow, which is really nice. Slide molding is something that's fairly recent, and the more they do it, the better things get, because they can actually put details in the sides of the parts. Okay, moving right along. More little parts for the transmission and so forth. Looks like some of the vents and intakes, and just little pieces to the transmission itself. Weathering is going to be almost a must on this if you really want to make it look like it's been in use. Some more of the interior here. Looks like the torsion bar holders, which are one piece, which is really nice. Looks pretty intimidating, but I know with other Tacom kit builds, it should go pretty quick. Looks like some of the different vents here, different kinds, so you can choose which kind you want. They give you lots of different options, even though it's a late production. They did have different changes, so check your references. There's a bunch of books coming out to go along with this on Panthers. Ammo, they give you 2 types of ammo and plenty of it. Okay. Side skirts, this does not have a tub chassis. You have to actually build the walls up, but it should be fairly straightforward in trying to get them at a right angle. You might buy a block or a right angle piece of metal to make sure everything's square and straight, but I'm sure building it, it'll be pretty square and straight. Again, different versions of everything in that one. And lots of track, but it is length and length, which is really nice. There appears to be just a tiny knockout pin mark in the individuals, which you can just hit that with a little sandpaper before or after assembly. Not really necessary. If you're going to really mud it up, don't even worry about it. You're going to put mud on those tracks and you won't even see them. They're pretty shallow. Link and length track is very, very nice. The other thing they did was the track guides. Instead of putting every single one of them on there, which on Tigers and Panthers and stuff is kind of aggravating, they actually put them on a tree where you actually, instead of doing each one individually, you cut the tree out, and these are spaced out to fit the track. So you take that whole run, put it on the track, glue it, let it dry, and then clip off the runner, and you're done. So again, they're a new type of technology. They're listening to their customers. They're really putting this stuff in here, knowing that people will like it. So I love companies that actually listen to that kind of stuff and the frustrations of certain modelers. Bottom pan, crisply detailed. I mean, there's just no flash on these kits at all. I mean, they're just excellent. All right. This kit review is a little longer than most because it's an interior one. 3 different mantlets, which was very exciting. That way also, if you're first starting to do your own Zimmerit, take the mantlet you're not going to use and practice. Got it right there. And looks like the bottom of the turret. Okay. More little parts for the interior. Looks like the turret ring and bottom floor, I should say. And a lot of little interiors, little hoses and clamps and things of that sort. Okay. Suspension pieces and some ammo racks. Don't have to drill those out. Really, really detailed. Again, there probably is some little more detail you can put on them if you like. And the engine. You could even display the engine out of it because the engine is complete. So a few different parts are very intricately detailed and molded there. Some hoses and so forth there for it. Very cool. Okay, almost at the bottom. Okay, we got the upper hull. This is all cut out for viewing the engine and so forth. The turret is not clear like the rifle field, but still you can do all that detail in there, and it is removable by just pulling it off the top if you don't glue it, so you can view it. This bag does come with a track guide, so you can actually put your sprockets on there, put the track on there, glue it all together. Some people like to do the track glued separately, not to the idlers, that way they can take it off, paint it, and then install it on the model. I personally like to do the whole thing and then paint it with a primer black and then just work from there. So, but it does give you the exact length from the other kits I've worked with Tacom. That is very well shaped. There generally is not a shortage on any of the track pieces. Some people on the M47 they did complain that they were missing track pieces. They actually weren't. If you look at the track on the M47, they're gapped on the real thing, and the length ones are gapped. When people glue them on, I did it the same way the first time, couldn't figure it out. I just put them link to link, just like a regular tank, came up short. You actually need to glue them with that same spacing as the regular length of track. If you do that, it will go all the way around and work. So just remember, you got to do that spacing. It would have been nice if they gave you a little tool to actually put in there as you glued them, but that's the solution. They did not make a mistake on that. So there's that. And the instructions, which is a big old book here. Let's pull this off here. Okay. Massive book, but very clear. They even give you color photographs, or actually computer generated images of the engine and the interior with colors, color callouts. They do get help from different manufacturers on this, which is really nice. But very clear. I mean, it's not cluttered. That's one thing I do not like about some manufacturers. They clutter it up, and if you're not careful, you'll miss a part, and it's hard to go back to get it. I usually use a highlighter to highlight the instructions before I start of anything that's really hard to understand or parts that are small and I might miss. So that sometimes helps there. But these are very clear, which again, they're listening to their modeler community. That they want it easy to read, easy to understand, and clear. So that will help there. We've got a few other items in here. Got antennas for the tanks that are basically the command tanks. Usually have to buy these aftermarket. They do give you those. Decals, and their decals are very good. I'm not sure who manufactures them for them, because they don't put a manufacturer on them like some companies do. So, but they are very nice. They're very thin, very well registered. So got a few options there. Of course, with the Zimmerit, if you do the Zimmerit, you're going to want to put these on with a lot of decal set so they conform to that rippled effect. Little tiny things for all the ammo, little markings. So that's cool that they give you that. Grills for the intakes, and give you the different styles, and really finely done. Some copper wire for the tow cables, which is awesome because you can bend it like that. If they do it in stainless steel or steel, you can't get those bends in it. Really frustrating. String is nice, but string only goes so far. Copper cable is the way to go, and it's nice that they show that they've started to do that. They also have done a thinner one, which is correct for some of those tow cables. This is a flexible hose, and they actually made it out of flexible plastic. Just this one. They went through a lot of effort just to make this one flexible. So this goes from the lower hull to the upper turret, I believe. That's why it has to be flexible. So they did an awesome job on that. So looking at it out of the box, looks like it's going to be a fun build, a long build. Take your time on it. Lots of reference possibly needed, or just have fun with it and just build the heck out of it. You can, from the looks of it, you can actually remove the upper hull to see the stuff in the bottom, and it closes up so close that you don't really have to glue it. I mean, if at a show they can ding you for not having having gaps, but if you show them that it opens, then that'll be that. So, anyways, that is a good thumbs up on that one, and hoping to see the Berg Panther coming out soon. All right, it's time to do a rewind. And for this week's rewind, I'm reviewing the Monogram B-26 Invader. It was a box scale. They never put a scale really on this. It's somewhat close to 72nd, but it was just back in the day when if it fit in the box, that's what they did. And anyways, I built this as when I was a young kid. And it really inspired me in building models and just learning patience, and just taught me a lot of different things about life, history, things like that. So I actually saw this at a model show, and I picked it up. I was just so excited that I found the model that I built when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old. And so let's take a good look at it. So we've got the typical Monogram box art of the day, where they actually showed the model, not paintings or CG interpretations of the model. It is actually built and painted on the front. Shows a couple more pictures on the back. This is when it was owned by Mattel, Let's see if we have a date on it. 1973. Oh my God. That is 45 years ago. Oh my God. Anyways, gives a little bit of history of the aircraft here. And molded in colored plastic, which is molded in a silver. Maybe painted, they say. 10 and up. So let's take a look at it. All right. Instructions were not acid proof, so they're starting to yellow. But anyways, handmade drawings of the aircraft. Almost all the assembly is on one page, believe it or not. That's kind of interesting that they were that simple. And gives you again a little bit of history on it. Coloring suggestions. Again, no federal standard call-outs or anything like that, because they really didn't care that day. They just tells you olive drab, flesh, black, silver, and red. And here's the back. They kind of talk about trying to do the alignment, which they don't really show a lot in the new models, but back in the day they were trying to be, most models were educational. So they were trying to teach you what the name of the item was, like an elevator, rudder, stabilizer, vertical stab. And they were trying to tell you how things are supposed to look and straightening them up, and why the wings will have to be a little bit of an angle, and they tell you how to line all that stuff up and to be careful of that alignment to make it look like the real thing, because that was the goal. When you were a kid, you wanted to look like that same one you saw at the air show flying around. Unfortunately, you don't see these flying around that much anymore. So everything's in a bag here. What's really interesting is the decal placement is actually raised. All the panels are raised, they're riveted and so forth. But the actual decals, the star and bar and so forth, were raised. So you could actually put the decal exactly in the right place if you wanted to use the decals. Or if you did not want to use decals, you could just paint that. So decals for youngsters sometimes is a little bit of a challenge. There is a technique with them. They can be very frustrating if you don't apply them correctly. So that's what they were doing. They were just showing those. Didn't even have to put the decals on there if you don't want. You had your star and bar and your tail codes and all that good stuff. And same thing on the wings. Little star and bar there, a lot of rivets, which is actually ahead of its time. A lot of these new models, the rivets are actually inscribed instead of being raised. Unfortunately, a real rivet is actually flush, so you sometimes they're raised and sometimes they're recessed. So a lot of people's opinions change on that, but that's what they really are. So anyways, so some people like that rivety kind of detail. So looks like it's going to be a fun build. They even put the nose art in raised markings there. And let's see, decals, a little yellow. You can use these still. What I would suggest is to clear coat them with some decal solution from Microscale, or Super Scale. I'm not sure if they're still around. They're brothers. So anyways, you can put that on there to make sure they don't crack. Some people have even put these in a window and had the sunlight actually bleach them out to be clear again, but they'll eventually yellow again, unfortunately. So but they give you all the decals. They show you where to cut them out, and they even have the nose art on there and all that good stuff. They have the clear parts still perfectly clear, looking good. So anyways, that's a walk down memory lane. I mean, that is that's a ways back, 45 years. So there's your little pilot there. He's kind of just a little blob, but he's got his hat on, so not bad for the time. And I mean, to give you an idea of how old this kit is, if you were trying to build a model in World War II, this model would have been molded at the turn of the century in 1900s, like 1901, 1899. So that gives you a kind of a scope of how long this kit has been out. So there you go. There is our rewind back to the past review, and hope you enjoyed it. All right, time for this week's new gear. Basically looking at something that's come out fairly recently or hasn't been talked about a whole lot, and I'm going to feature it and show you how they work and why they're important. This week, what I've got here is a piece of metal from Voyager model. This particular one is very hard to get. It's not expensive at all, but every time I went to try to find one, out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. So if you see one of these, they're only about $5 right around, but they are worth it if you can find the use for them. And what this is, it's basically a heavy-duty photo-etched piece of metal. Unfortunately, it's a little curved here, but it still works the purpose. And what it does is it's got a grid line system here that's etched into the surface of the metal. Now, what that's going to do for us is, I just picked up a Trumpeter T80 T84 O-Plot, the Ukrainian version, and it has that digital camouflage, which you've seen in a lot coming around in airplanes, tanks, things like that. A lot of Chinese vehicles have that paint job on them. So, not easy to do. Companies have not gone as far as putting decals in the kits for them. Maybe some aircraft, but definitely not armor. So, hard to measure it out, hard to do it, unless you have something like this, which is really a pretty neat little deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Let's zoom in here. Try to get that kind of where you can see it here. Okay. So we'll use this big one so you can see it. Again, the grid line. So all you have to do is take a piece of masking tape, preferably some of the Tamiya tape or the kabuki type tape that are semi-transparent so you can see it through there and see where you're cutting. So what you're going to do is you're going to place it on there, and then you're going to use these guides, these scribes that will guide your knife, and you can basically do almost like the game Tetris shapes to them, and this will give you the opportunity to make sure they're square. So let's try just kind of doing a little make-believe piece that we're working on the armor. They do give 4 shapes or 4 sizes, so it'll work in different scales. And then all you do is peel this off. If I can get it without tearing it. So again, I didn't take a lot of time doing this, but make sure it's a very sharp knife or knife blade, and make sure you get all the way across the pieces. So basically, now I have a little section of digital camouflage. I can do the colors in layers just like a regular camouflage, and I can also, what's also nice about this is you can actually do the opposite. You could do the shape out here of tape and then just cut out the middle and then have that as like a template to actually spray your colors. So very simple idea, very simple design. Don't know why anybody didn't think of it sooner, but they did just in time for a lot of these kits. So basically that's going to be a neat type of way to cut those out all over the tank. I'm going to probably start that O-Plot pretty soon. Glad I have that tool. There are other manufacturers that are coming out with different types of these. Some are boards that are etched and so forth. So very handy tool. And the other tool I'd like to cover, just from a personal aspect, is these. So I'm getting it up to that point where I am having a little bit vision problems in certain distances. So I have to use these readers. First time I've ever used a reader. I should have done this before, even though I didn't need readers, because you can get these readers in high magnification. Now, I do have a this thing here, which is a optivisor, and kind of clunky to use, basically a magnifier. These, you can get up like plus 3.25 magnification, and you can actually use these to actually work on your model. Very comfortable, a little more comfortable than the optivisor. Not quite as magnified, but enough that you can see the small details and stuff. I wish I had it before. I could have been building a lot more detail in my models, but that's the new tool of my personal inventory. So hope you enjoyed it. All right, so that's a wrap on our April issue of the modeling news here at Maus Werx, and I'm here in the mouse trap, is what I call my little building area here, and hope you enjoyed this. And that is all we got this week, and join us for next week when I'll have lots of more stuff. And be sure to subscribe and like the video, and if you subscribe, be sure to hit the bell. That way you always get an indication whenever I post something, which I'm trying to do that a whole lot these days. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.